Chapter 1, Part 3. The Broadening. A shrill whistle like a full-time ref at a football match made Jess jump. The platform manager was standing right next to the carriage window that he was looking out of. Jess was sure he did it on purpose. Sort of went with the uniform. He liked to look out just before departing. Gave him a feeling of drama. Jess was romantic, impatient and a dreamer. Moments of fantasy coupled with a plethora of meaningless metaphors often engulfed him. He found life generally boring and had failed to hold down a job for longer than a few months. A sort of arrogance, petulance and an inability to take responsibility. The time had come to change. This journey was a catalyst for this to happen. Quite soon, having all but forgotten about his experience the night before, he had read the paper and found an article that got him thinking. Parallel universes could exist. Jess always took interest in sensationalist science. The headline usually was much more exciting than the content, but on this occasion, the content lived up to the headline. Physics was on the verge of breaking through with its understanding of how the universe worked. The train for this part of the journey was probably one of the oldest on the line, so there was a bit of swaying and clickety-clack, clickety-clack. Jess seemed to be sitting on the part of the train that every now and then sunk like a roller coaster, and of course the storm was still raging. At times he wasn't really sure whether the train would stay on the tracks. The journey soon reached the Midlands, by which time Jess's mood had become sullen and grey like the weather. He felt that someone had turned the colour off. It was misty and monochrome. He couldn't seem to focus on anything and became hypnotised by the train track. Clickety-clack, 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 clickety-clack. Jess, wake up, we're nearly home. He felt a seatbelt pulling at his arm. Plantain trees lined a green, sunny, wide road with massive houses set back behind the trees. He was kind of gobsmacked as he looked up and saw the sun streaming through the iridescent, sumptuous green leaves. The branches of the trees created a cool tunnel passing through the scorching and rich residential landscape. The car they were driving in was vast and smooth, a far cry from the clickety-clack that was his reality seemingly seconds earlier. As he peered out of the car, he saw fantastic houses. He guessed this was America. Nowhere else could support such extravagant opulence. There were gargantuan four-wheel drive cars in every driveway, like tanks that he imagined drank petrol within seconds of being switched on. The car majestically glided into one of these driveways that seemed like an airport runway. The house he could see was Spanish style, with an immaculate tended lawn with telltale stripes of exact proportions. At strategic points, the landscape was tastefully adorned with large pots with exotic yet tasteful trees and plants. Smack bang in the middle, at the back of the lawn, near a substantial wall, was a summer hammock swing chair, facing an outbuilding that had a basketball hoop with an area below covered in marked-out rubber matting. He must have looked like he felt, because the man said, "Don't worry, the doctor told me your memory would take a while to recover. You've been through a lot. In fact, we don't really know what yet until we have a look at the data." Jess again was relatively calm, considering he sort of felt like he was meant to be there. There was a nurse waiting with a small wheelchair when they reached the doorway. To say doorway, this was as big as the bedsit that was still fresh in his mind. He allowed himself to be manoeuvred into and then pushed through into the entrance. The first thing Jess saw was a large, fancy cage. Inside was a very beautiful green and yellow parrot who chirped in an unerringly human-sounding voice, "Jess is a good boy." He suddenly had flashback to the train and the dull grey tracks, then straight back to sun streaming through the sparkling birdcage. They went through to a huge room with a long oak table, and at the end sat a man dressed in a military uniform with a hat resting on the table in front of him. The man stood up and walked towards Jess and took the wheelchair from the nurse. He purposefully moved them both toward the French window, then into the garden towards a bench. The man sat down and faced Jess. "Okay, I guess we need to explain to you what is going on, Jess." Jess nodded, still unable to speak.